Podcast. My name is Shogun. Joining me today is my good friend Traveling Through Time to discuss his hard reboot of civilization, his radical vision for a new society based on the Hexarchy, the number 6, and a whole bunch of really intense city planning and constitutional reform and all kinds of things. And we'll get into that right away. But join the Temple Mount Discord server and subscribe to our BitChute and YouTube channels, Temple Mount Discord podcast, official, whatever. You'll find it if you try. That being said, welcome Traveling Through Time. Thank you for joining me. How are you today, sir?
Doing great. Very excited to chat about this very important topic.
I'm very excited about it as well. So for those who is probably everybody who doesn't know the context of this, Traveling Through Time has spent a lot of time, and I mean a lot of time, coming up with everything from a new economy to a new political system to a new architectural system to a new agricultural system to a new theological system and political system. It's extremely involved. I've read some of the documentation. I've seen some of the videos. I am very impressed with the amount of work that you've put into it. You obviously believe in it and you've put a lot of time into it. At the same time, it does sound crazy as heck because you call yourself the new pope. You say it's based on the 666 and that you're the Messiah. But at the same time, it's pretty impressive what you've done. So why don't you walk us through what is the Arkology project?
So there's two parts. The Arkology itself is a modular Arkology, which is an entire city inside of one building. It is a science fiction term, but to date, no one has built an actual Arkology worldwide, so this would be the first one on Earth. Modular, meaning it's made up of thousands of identical pieces that connect to themselves. The other half of the system is the new constitution. There's actually 4 contracts. There's a city-state constitution, which is 1. There is corporate reform, which is 2, corporate ownership reform. There is a global military federation, which is the 3rd contract. And then the 4th contract is to create communes inside of this Arkology. So that's pretty much the initial breakdown of it. And the main goal, the long-term goal, is, I wouldn't say perfect sustainability, but pretty damn close. Very close to perfect sustainability. And a 2-day work week with retiring around 45-ish.
So, again, what you've created is a new constitution, a 3D visual rendering of a new city planning model, and your basic concept here is individual city-states will replace the unified United States of America, and each city-state will be able to establish its own political policy. Is that correct?
Yes, each city is sovereign. So it's like the 10th Amendment on steroids. So the Congress, as we know it, is dissolved, and Washington, D.C., as we know it, is dissolved. And it's replaced by these military federations.
All right. So when you say military federations, why are these city-states inherently militarized? Like, are you saying are replacing civil society with military martial law?
It's kind of like NATO. So it's a peacekeeping force between the cities.
But it's a peacekeeping force that's based on private capital rather than national sovereignty, right?
So when you join one of these military federations, you essentially create, or you join a senate for that military, and then the senate pretty much controls like funding and orders of the military. So there's like a indirect command process, but the Senate is not a legislature. It's very important. So the militaries are not in control of any law.
I see. So how did you come across the idea of basing everything on the number 6? specifically? Because you call it a hexarchy, and hex means 6. And my understanding is your city planning is based on modular hexagrammatic or hexagraphic architecture. Why?
So the modular arcology can be built in several different ways. You can do squares and rectangles very easily. You can do triangles pretty easily. But I just like the hexagon. It has a very futuristic look to it. And I think 6 is a divine number because of 2 times 3. And it has a 3-way radial symmetry. So you could have 2, 3, or 6 for radial symmetry.
So what is the meaning of saying 2 times 3? Why is that significant?
Well, because it's 2 times 3.
Well, what do you mean? What does that mean?
6 is divisible by 2 and 3.
Right. But you can't explain why that matters or why that is important.
So it just creates like divine geometry, and you can create a massive number of like beautiful blueprints and beautiful floor plans and beautiful architectural arrangements due to that divine geometry.
Okay. So you believe the system should be monarchical, correct?
It used to be. It was originally a monarchy, and then people were kind of grumpy about that word. So I created the hexarchy, which is the exact same responsibilities as a monarch, except it's 6 people instead of 1.
And this, again, has nothing to do with the hexarchy from Warhammer 40,000. Complete coincidence that exists.
It's a total coincidence, yes.
Interesting. So I saw, and I will say for anyone listening to this, so shout out, where can they find your website or your YouTube channel where you have all your stuff?
It is YouTube at ARKOLOGY _city. Arkology _city.
All right. So you want to provide a universal basic income, correct?
Yeah, it scales with age and turns into Social Security.
Right. So you get more money as you age.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And can you explain your concept of the psychopath courts?
Oh, okay. So that one's a little bit that might be a little unpopular, might be a little spicy. So these will be close-knit communities. They'll be smaller city sizes. The city size is a maximum of 144,000 for biblical reasons. So, and it's a higher density than Manhattan. So you're going to be like on foot a lot. You're going to be walking around. You're going to like going up and down elevators with people, stuff like that. So, like psychopathic people or sociopathic people will be very problematic to the community. And so there is an article in the Constitution that allows people to identify sociopaths and then put them on trial for things they said or did. And if a jury finds it to be sociopathic behavior, then the first strike is therapy. The second strike is some more therapy, and then the third strike, you have a chance to be ostracized.
Sorry. Okay, so that's that process, and you've described yourself as being the Pope of this system. Is that where you would see yourself, or are you more like the king, or are you the king and the Pope? Like, how does that work?
Well, I'm not really the king anymore, so... And I don't think I'm the Pope either. I guess I could be like a cultural leader, but the king status has been replaced with the Hexarchy, which I think is nice anyway, because as king, you don't want to be too busy. Like, it's nice to split duties up between 6 people.
Right. So you have some kind of high council, but didn't you say that you saw yourself as some kind of messiah type role?
Yeah. So there's a lot of strange things with biblical prophecy. Like it's named Arkology with an ARK, so it's like Noah's Ark, and I'm essentially building it for to shield society from like geopolitical storms coming in the future, like peak oil, the housing crisis, the New World Order. Like, it's like being built in defense of those things. So it's kind of interesting that an arcology with a C, ARC, is a science fiction term that actually goes back to the 60s. So kind of interesting. And then Jordan Peterson has this think tank called ARC, and they're looking for a voluntary visionary plan for the future. And it says in the Bible that the coming of the Son of Man will be like a flash of lightning that lights up the sky. So, and Jordan Peterson's organization is ARC, like an electric arc. And I'm telling him about the Ark, which is the name of my city. And if he presents my city in the new constitution to the world, it essentially creates a new golden age instantly, like as like a giant flash of light worldwide.
So your idea is to reboot civilization, starting with the United States, by dissolving the federal government into a series of independent sovereign city-states that operate on pseudo-anarcho-capitalist grounds, but with some kind of religious messianic basis in order to create a better constitution and a better society.
Yeah, if you read Revelation, if you read prophecy, they do talk about new covenants replacing old covenants. And like Christ, when he came, he created a new covenant, which was the New Testament. And the New Testament replaced the Old Testament because it was superior. And it actually says in Hebrews, it says that it was superior to the Old Covenant because it was built on better promises. So that's exactly what I'm doing with my new constitution, which is a covenant. And the name of the constitution is actually the Covenant of the Ark, is the name of the constitution. And it's half the word count of the U.S. Constitution. But since there's no legislature, since the legislature is completely abolished, the Constitution actually contains the entirety of the law and all of the regulations and all of the welfare and all the taxation of society. So go ahead.
Can you summarize the top 3 priorities that you would change? Let's say you were voted into presidency or kingship or whatever the supreme head honcho is. What would be the first 3 things you'd change about society?
I would say I would abolish the landlord contract, would be a first one. And especially for people who own more than like 3 houses, like that would be like kind of a compromise. So you say like if you own more than 3 houses, you can't be a landlord. And then I would probably default on the national debt, either through just saying just declaring a default, or through some sort of mild hyperinflation. One of the two. And then the hyperinflation would actually help reduce the debt load of society as well. And then I would probably implement a universal basic income and slash like tons and tons of departments and tons of budgets. So the universal basic income would probably be like $300 or $600 a month, in that range. And then yeah, that's pretty much a good start.
So, how would you deal with the issue of other city states that are near you potentially having mutually exclusive or contradictory political goals to your city state? And in other words, all I'm asking really is, wouldn't dividing the federal government into individual sovereign city states lead to competition and warfare between those city states? And wouldn't that be an inherently bad thing?
It would actually lead to less warfare, because you could have the socialists live in their like centralized failure in their own city state. The socialism would be isolated to 1 or 2 or 5 city states, and then you could continue capitalism with 10 other city states, and then you can have a hybrid, some kind of libertarian hybrid of both, with another 10 city states, and see how that goes. And you can play with different tax rates in all of the different city states as well. Oh yeah, something I didn't mention. Since we're using the Declaration of Independence, we're starting from a clean slate in terms of budgeting and law. So there's 0% income tax, 0% payroll tax, and almost a $0 property tax. Your property tax is going to be like $100 or $200 for most people.
So if you are living in your hexarchy system, you're receiving a universal income, your rent is affordable, everything is accessible by foot. But what is the basis of the 666, thing? Because I read your proposal, and there was a specific part where it said everything's based on a 666 structure. So can you explain that in a way that would help the Christians in the audience to not be so suspicious of it? Because when you put it forward as a universal government system based on 666, Christians are going to see that as like the mark of the beast.
Well, the 2 times 3 thing, like I mentioned earlier, and then carbon atom is 6 neutrons, 6 protons, and 6 electrons. And the carbon atom is the fundamental building block of all life on Earth. All organic chemistry is carbon atoms. And carbon atoms actually naturally form into hexagons. They always create hexagons. So, because hexagons are actually the strongest structure in the universe, they're the most stable structure in the universe. And like a diamond is a hexagonal lattice of carbon atoms, and it's the strongest material known to mankind. It's like the strongest material in the universe. So it ties in with the hexagons of the infrastructure of the city. And then I just like base 6 numbers. So like 3, 6, 9, 12, 24, 30, 36, 60, 90, 120, 180, blah, 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 blah. So almost all of the numbers in the entire Constitution, including like the formulas and the taxes and stuff like that, is all of those numbers. So all the numbers you looked at is like 30, 60, 120, 180, 360, 240,
right,
etc., etc.
Well, Nikola Tesla said if you could understand the mystery of 369, you would understand the whole universe, or something along those lines.
Yeah, exactly.
So give us your sales pitch right now. Anyone who's listening to this, let's say 100 to 200 people listen to this podcast. What do you want them to hear? What is really your message?
So Christians are consumed by the rapture. They're consumed by tribulation. And almost no one is even thinking about the kingdom of God, which is the prize. It's like, that's like the goal. That's the prize at the end of the tunnel. No one's even talking about it. No one's thinking about it. No one's saying, oh, what would that look like? How would we manifest that? There's 2 billion Christians on this earth. We could move mountains, literally, if we really wanted to. So yeah, that's something that I set my mind to using the Declaration of Independence and a little bit of creativity and a few years to kind of meditate on things. And it's really turned into this really profound, really groundbreaking project and vision, and it's like, it's not made out of gemstones and stuff like that, like Revelation. It doesn't fall down from the heavens like in Revelation, but it is pretty utopian. I mean, we're talking about a 2-day work week for working class people, and their wives could stay home with the kids and collect a UBI. And even working 2 days a week, you can pay off your mortgage and retire at like 45 years old, according to the microeconomic calculations.
Bro, 2 days work week, retire at 45. Sounds like a plan. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. Let's build multi-level hexagrammatic scaffolding, multi-level fucking agriculture. And let's build a futuristic techno-utopia where the word of God will be ensconced as law and scientific enlightenment will be the way. Let's do it. Why not?
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm trying to say.
what do we have to lose? What do we have to lose? All I ask is you change it from a 666 basis to an 888 basis, because at the end of the day, the octagon is more stable than the hexagon. 8 is higher than 2. 6 is the number of humanity. 666 is the number of the beast. 777 is the number of God. 888 is the number of infinity and eternity. So we should make an 888 base structure. But that is as we come to it. Maybe we start with 666 and we go 777, 888. I don't know. But I do commend you on your commitment to your project, the depth and breadth of consideration you've given to it. And I think people should check out your website and check out your YouTube videos to see how it actually manifests. But does anyone in the audience have a question or a comment for Mr. Traveling Through Time? If not, Traveling Through Time, what is the main political message you want people?
Democracy has failed us. Representative democracy is a psychic disease, and with the Declaration of Independence and even a lot of the Bible gives us the legal and theological tools to just disregard it, to walk away from that cult and to start something brand new and something fresh. And it even says, I think in this Isaiah, I forget the exact verse, but it says he regards the nations as worthless and less than nothing.
I got a question. How old are you?
36.
Oh man, you got a couple more years. After 40 years old, you might learn a lot more in 4 more years.
That's possible. I learned a whole lot in the last 4 years.
40 is a big number in the Bible.
2027's coming up, and Amen. Y'all gonna fit mostly everything is going to be revealed to the human race.
I agree.
We just did.
2027 is a big year. 2027 is the year we set our World of Darkness campaign on the server. You can hear all 17 episodes of that. 2027 is coming soon. It's right around the corner, and a lot of people think it'll be a big year. But I want to thank Traveling Through Time. I want to thank for being part of this podcast and Traveling Through Time. If you want to do other episodes in the future to expand on your vision for human society, let's do that.
Oh, I can keep going.
Yeah, all right, keep going. Give us another round.
So, with these ARC people, do you know who Eric Weinstein is?
Vaguely, he's like a Hollywood celebrity who is accused of sex crimes.
It's Harvey Weinstein.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, you're close though. But he's one of the intellectual dark web guys. He's been on Joe Rogan a bunch. Okay. And he's part of the ARC forum, and he was on a podcast recently, and he couldn't stop talking about how the academic world needs to come together during this time of crisis and create a new economic system that's not capitalism and not communism, and it's instead something brand new entirely, which is
it's called socialism.
No, not socialism. Socialism sucks too. It's that's what I sent him. I sent him that system. So he's basically talking about that. And then in the same interview, the interviewees suggested that we needed to abandon democracy and choose a dictator. And by choosing a dictator, we can do away with like this weird cult that everyone is perpetually stuck in, like talking about, oh, who are you voting for 2024 this, 2024 that, every single day, RFK, Trump, DeSantis, blah, 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 Biden, every single day. And it's like this weird cult that doesn't actually discuss anything real and doesn't actually discuss human progress and doesn't discuss ideas. It only discusses like the character of these fake ass politicians who aren't going to change anything anyway.
I agree. I think democracy is a lie because democracy is mediocrity, because democracy is ruled by the majority, and the majority always clusters at the center of a standard distribution, and everything statistically falls into a standard distribution, which means that democracy means that the most votes will be applied by the mediocre, not the high nor the low, but the middle of society will determine the direction of future culture. And that doesn't make sense because what you would want is the upper echelons of the intelligentsia to make policy-related decisions relevant to their spheres of understanding, rather than having that being determined by masses of people who are ignorant of the subject on which they are voting. So democracy allows mediocrity and the rule of the ignorant, whereas having a benevolent dictator and a school of techno adepts who would handle certain policy prescriptions would be optimal if you could create it. But I don't know if that's what your program manifests, but that's what I think needs to be manifested.
Yeah, and my proposal avoids the central point of failure by having like dozens or even hundreds of these monarchies. So the best monarchies would thrive, and then the other monarchies would copy those cities.
But if you're talking about monarchies of specific cities, that's like not really a monarchy. Like,
why not?
Would be a whole bunch of fake monarchies involved, right? Like, how are you going to establish a monarchy and be like, from now on, we're royalty? Like, you know, if you're not part of an existing monastic dynasty, how are you going to position yourself in such a way that people will see you as a king or a queen if you don't derive from a king or a queen from an established bloodline? I mean, it sounds arbitrary, but
it's not hereditary.
Well, you know, traditionally speaking, monarchy means dynastic, hereditary transmission of power. So it goes from father to son.
Yeah, I don't believe in that.
Well, then how do you establish a new monarchy? On what basis do you claim royalty?
You would probably, well, first of all, I would claim royalty because I'm the author of the Constitution. So that's pretty much like I took the spot. And then I would appoint my successors.
So you wouldn't do it based on dynastic succession, you do it on meritocracy?
Correct, yeah.
How would you assess meritocratic value? In other words, on what basis would you determine who deserved or did not deserve power?
Achievement.
Well,
so they have 10 or 20 years to prove themselves, and if they do, they get appointed.
Well, what did you achieve?
I wrote the Constitution, and I built the 3D infrastructure.
that stuff you're saying. I mean, I agree on universal payment for because AI is taking over and all the immigrants are taking our jobs. So the Congress is actually making us uh go down the pipe, of poverty and stuff. So they're gonna have to give us a universal payment once a month, but it's gonna have to be at least $1,500 just for people to survive, not 600. Okay, there's no way anybody could survive with $600 a month because rent's $600 a month, even higher. So that's your plan is failed right there with your Pacifics that you told us. Your plan has failed because no one could survive with $600 a month. No one.
But it's supplemental. It's not 100% of your income. And then you also have more than one adult per household. So you're talking about 2 adult households. That's $1,200. And then we also have affordable housing and almost no property tax. So the rent in our system would be like $300 to $400 a month, and your property tax would be like $50 a month, and then your UBI would be like $1,200.
Well, I would get rid of all the taxes. I already figured out a plan to save this government and the world. And
Well, we're gonna do your podcast probably tomorrow, Open Eye.
yeah, but
So let's save that. Let's save that.
Traveling. What could you do with potentially infinite gold sent to you in amethyst briefcases?
I could build a lot of cities until the gold price crashes from hyperinflation.
Well, I'm going to have access to my direct access to my vortex of creation soon, which has
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to do a podcast with you about your vortex of creation, Hugh, and I want to do a podcast with you, Open Eye, about your beliefs as well. But I think for now, I want to ask who hears this on YouTube or BitChute.
But yeah, there's so much potential, like culturally and artistically and architecturally, that I can't really capture it as one person. You have to kind of run the experiment with all of those unique souls adding their own special contributions to the environment. And I did a pretty good job as one person, but it takes your breath away, especially if it's the first time you're seeing it. But it's nowhere near its maximum potential yet.
Traveling, would our economy collapse if we had access to infinite gold?
Listen, that's a question for another day. But we're going to wrap it up now. Thank you, Traveling Through Time, for being with us. Thank you to the live audience, recorders, uploaders, and everybody listening on YouTube and BitChute. And check out the Hexarchy, check out the Arkology, check out the visual imaging and the documents that Traveling Through Time has made. You can find all that on the Temple Mount Discord server, Temple Mount Podcast, Discord, YouTube, and BitChute. God bless. Don't take the mark of the beast.